Hello and welcome. My name is MiniBetrayal and this is Factorio. Now, if you have spent much time on YouTube or Reddit or anywhere else online in the last few weeks, you have probably heard of Team Trees. This is an initiative cooked up by, I should say, Mr. Beast, amongst others, of YouTube fame, to with the support of the Arbor Foundation, or I suppose in support of the Arbor Foundation, plant 20 million trees before 2020, which is it's a massive undertaking. There's no doubt about that. Will it solve the climate crisis all on its own? No, but it's mostly about getting people interested in saving the environment. So I'm going to do what I can. But I'm going to do it in my own way, of course. In Factorio, as many of you are no doubt well aware, trees are the enemy. They're useful in the very early game because, you need to get wood. But as you move into the mid-game and the late game, they just become a nuisance. They've got this great big bounding box which you can't do anything with. They just get in the way of your nice, neat factory. But we're going to do something a little bit different today. I have managed to drag myself away from Cookie Clicker long enough to install a mod which allows me to plant trees. So, by way of making up for all the massive amounts of pollution I have created in this game, I'm going to plant some trees. So, what I've done, I've got a new world here, or it was a new world. I've spent some time in it. I've actually turned pollution off because I don't want to be killing trees in this particular run. I want to be planting them. I've turned enemies off as well because they're going to get in the way. And I've built myself a little starter base, which I'll get to in a moment. The mod I've installed, it's very lightweight. It's just called My Tree Mod. What it does is it introduces one recipe, which takes a wood and 20 water and gives you a a sapling, which you can then plant. And after a couple of in-game days, that will turn into a tree. So, the reason I'm using this mod, by the way, rather than many of the other mods that are available that do similar things, firstly, this does, as far as I can tell, nothing else. So it's not going to overburden me with tree stuff. But secondly, and most importantly, as far as I'm concerned, that can be blueprinted and pasted, because I'm going to be planting a lot of trees, and I don't want to do it all by hand. And besides, Factorio is all about automation anyway. So, if you're not aware, trees, they can, of course, be cut down, but there are also robots in Factorio which can do things for you. And that is usually kind of how you deal with trees in Factorio. As you move into the later game, you will use other techniques. Flamethrowers are quite a common way of getting rid of trees. My personal favourite is nuclear weapons. But anyway, let's come over here and have a look at this starter base. So this base I've got over here, I spent a couple of hours in it. It's not particularly well thought out. I wouldn't say it's rushed or anything, but essentially it just builds robots. Because instead of cutting the trees down with robots, I'm going to get them to plant them for me. So I'll give you a very quick base tour. We've got some miners over here, which split into a couple of smelting columns. Very, very standard stuff. I'm sure you've seen this kind of thing before if you've seen any of my videos. Some red and green science, some oil over there, plastic, green circuits, red circuits, engine units, electric engine units, some blue science. And then up here, I've just got a row of machines making flying robot frames feeding into this, which makes construction robots, which feed into a roboport. For the sake of not actually having to go and do this thing myself, I've also automated production of some power poles, some roboports, and down here somewhere some radars so I can see what's going on. So, what's the goal? Well, Team Trees is trying to plant 20 million trees. I'm going to do the same. Or at least I'm going to try to. I don't know if the game or my computer will handle 20 million trees. To give you an idea, let's hop into the map view. So I started this playthrough off, it was about there. That's where those little few trees were. And you saw how long it took me to run across there. Assuming that I plant trees in every in-game square, 20 million of them would be a square of squares about... actually, I can't remember the exact number. Let me pop out my calculator. Where was it? 4,472 and a bit wide. To give you some context, from there to there is about 450. So essentially, we're looking at a square about 10 times that size. Got a lot of planting to do. So, what I have done, I've got a little setup down here where I can make some saplings. So I'll have to do this bit by hand. I haven't got as far as logistics science at all. So I'm actually going to have to do that bit by hand. But then everything else I should be able to do from the map view. So, let's get planting. Okay, back again a little later, and we've got a whole section of just trees now. Let's have a quick count, see how many we've got in this kind of area. So if I grab this one, and then sort of that's the top corner of where we've actually planted. So let's drag that down to there. So we've got 135,000 wood there. So if we divide that by 4, we get 33,750 in that section there. So let's see, if I do 20 million divided by 33,750, okay, so I just have to do that another 592.5 times. Okay, well, hopefully things will get faster as I go on. Part of my issue has been, well, At the moment I've kept myself at 1,000 bots. I can increase that once I've got more roboports down and therefore more charging space. And also, remember it takes 1 wood to make 1 sapling. So I'll need 20 million wood just to get that. But I get 4 wood from cutting down a tree. So the more trees I cut down, these ones out here, the natural ones, I guess, as they get cut down to make way for the nicely neat and compact ones, I'll get more and more wood to be able to put the saplings down faster and faster. Alright, back to it. Alright, here we are back again, and yeah, I've done a lot of work. So firstly, more roboports. I've also increased the amount of sapling production I've got going. I've needed to vastly increase the amount of power I've got, and to that end I've also started making some solid fuel as well. If you look at the map, this is where we're at. So, from all the way up here to all the way down there is just solid trees. Minus space for roboports, power, occasional radars. There's a radar over there you can just see poking through the canopy, and a few belts to bring in some resources. I needed to go and grab some extra iron, coal and copper, and I've got this little oil patch over here. So yeah, the reason I put a wall around this, I'm going to sort of do it in sections, because, well, let's see how many trees we've actually got. So, grab out the deconstruction planner, and actually let's just go along first. So we'll go along to this side, and then down, and you'll see almost immediately my frame rate tanks. Yeah, this is only while I'm trying to select everything in the world. So it's not so bad when I'm actually playing, but yeah, there's not a chance I'm going to be able to select 20 million trees. And I must not take my finger off the mouse button here. Okay, so there we have 4.2 million wood, which if we divide that by 4, we get 1,050,000 trees. So I am 1/20th of the way there. Still got a lot to do. So I'll also point out, by the way, that things are, as I said they are getting faster. As I've got more roboports out there, I can support more robots, which is part of the reason I had to bring in extra materials. I've also, I actually handcrafted a few yellow science packs. So let's see how these things are running actually. Somewhere over here, yeah, I've got some blue circuits being made. So I've got 134 of them, and then somewhere down here, I've got some low density structures. Because yeah, you can see at the top I've started going through a bit more science. So I've actually got myself a logistics network. I have got enough stuff to make the yellow science packs for worker robot speeds 3 and 4. I haven't actually made them yet. And also, I wouldn't say it's a cheat, but I have been making use of the game speed command. So if I just open up the console here, you can see that, when I'm just going around doing stuff, I'll bump it up to game speed 5. This just makes everything run 5 times faster. And while I'm waiting for sections of the forest to be built, I'll actually bump it up to game speed 500, which my computer can't handle. So we're running at about, what's that, 13, 14 times speed at the moment. At 60 frames a second, so 600 frames a second. No, 600 frames would be 10 times, so 1200 would be 20. And we've got about another 150 on that, so 22, 23 times game speed. Now when the robots go out there to do stuff, that drops down to more like somewhere between 5 and 10 times game speed, I think. Depending exactly how many robots are actually working at a time. It sort of tends to hover around the sort of 300 to 400 updates per second. But yeah, so that's where we're at the moment. I have got a lot more work to do. So I just had a quick look, and the game thinks this has been running for 120 hours. It's actually been running for probably closer to 10 hours or so. But yeah. Alright, back to it. Million wood. That is 2 million trees. 10% of the way there. And I'm not going to do that again because 2 frames a second is not particularly useful. I have made a couple of other changes to the main base as well. With all of the roboports I've got going on. 1.2 thousand roboports now. Even the, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I had 7 steam engine columns. It just wasn't enough. So there is a uranium deposit up here. I've actually set up a little train line just going backwards and forwards. There comes the train now to bring in some uranium, which then gets processed, which then gets processed again, which then gets turned into nuclear fuel, which goes down to these boys down here. So we've actually now got some nuclear power. So, nuclear-powered trees. Nothing's happening at the moment, which is why I'm not using that much. But we do actually need 2 of those columns. I've also expanded the amount of wood storage we've got here. I'm actually having to deconstruct a surprising amount of trees. Of course, the main sort of unplanted map doesn't have 25% tree coverage, and it takes 1 tree to make 4 wood, 1 wood to make a new tree. So I'm actually having to deconstruct large portions of things that I've already planted just to get the saplings to plant the next bit as well. Also, I don't think I mentioned this before, so while the main roboport network, so I've got the electric network thing switched on there so you can see what's going on. The things that I am using for power, so previously this bit of coal out here, this bit of coal up here, and also the new uranium deposit, they are actually on a kind of separate power network. Let's head up north so I can show you. What I've done is I have separated the base from everything else, because a couple of times I did run into issues where I didn't have enough power. So, like, even where they cross over down here, this network here is actually separate from this line that crosses it, that goes from that one to down there. And yeah, you can see here, this large power pole in there isn't connected to these 2 nearby it. So, this bit that goes over here to this coal deposit is not connected to the main power network. And similarly, I've got another chain of large power poles that run up the middle next to this next to this rail track that's sort of hidden in the trees there, that is not connected. They are connected by this power switch, which switches on if this accumulator, which is part of the main base, has more than 90% charge. The idea being that if I do run out of power, which has happened a couple of times, rather than absolutely everything shutting down, it will switch to just the base being powered and the things that the base needs to get power, so the uranium and the coal. Although I could probably disconnect the coal now, because the only thing I'm using coal for is plastic. Also, I've continued with research. I got a little bit bored of handcrafting yellow science packs, and purple science packs are dreadful to handcraft, considering I'm not really mass producing anything that it takes to make a purple science pack. So I've just got some automation set up here, and I've thrown a few logistics bots into the network as well. Where's a roboport? Yeah, so just 350 logistics. So that helps, get some science being done, as well as it means I can simplify the setup I had over here to deliver wood to my sapling creators. So let's have a quick look at science while we're here. I've done most of what I want to do. So if we were to look at so robot speed, I've done as much as I can do without going into rockets. I might look at doing a similar kind of thing, sort of a token automation using the logistics bots, just to get some space science packs, bump up the worker robot speed by another 65%, which isn't too bad. What else have I finished? That's robot speed. We've done that one. I haven't bothered with character logistics at all. Where is this one? Worker robot cargo size doesn't really help with construction. Even with the new update, the robots, they'll only carry tiles, which is kind of unfortunate, but as saplings aren't tiles, it just means that they can't do more than one at a time. Whatever. I've also done a little bit of mining productivity, again, just up to the space science bit. I don't think there's anything else I particularly need. Inserter capacity I could increase, but that's not at all a limiting factor. Lab research speed I could increase, but I'm not doing any lab research at the moment. Otherwise, there's nothing else I really need there. So maybe I will start working towards the science, the space science. What else have I got in here? Yeah, I don't need to go do any military stuff at all because I turned enemies off. So I think that's about it for the science. In terms of robots, I've got 10,000 construction robots at the moment, and I don't think I'm going to do any more because I've been messing with the game speed a little bit in order to do things as fast as I can. And with the number of roboports I've got, my logistics network is vast. Now, I could take some of these away, but I kind of want to leave them to give me charging points, because I've got a lot of robots. So with the number of roboports I've got, with the number of robots I've got, even if I bump it up as much as I can, when the robots are actually running, I max out at about 3 to 3.5 times game speed. Whereas, without robots running at the moment, just look at the updates per second in the top right corner here, 13, so that's 12, 13 times game speed, something like that, maybe 14. It's in that ballpark anyway, and if I were to, when I started this, I could easily hit 2,000 UPS. So things are definitely starting to take a hit in terms of frames per second, or updates per second, I should say. Still running at a smooth 60 frames. unless I try to select everything with a deconstruction planner. So yeah, that's where we're at the moment. Still got a lot of work to do. As I said, 10% of the way there, so I need essentially another 9 of those. The save itself, with the increased game speed, it says I'm at 173.5 hours. In terms of actual game time, I'm running at... I've been playing it on and off, listening to audiobooks while I've just got this running in the background. So, I'm probably sitting at somewhere around 20 to 24 hours of solid gameplay at this point. Luckily, it's a kind of playstyle that lends itself to idling quite well. So, alright, let's come back to it. I'll see if I have any updates in the meantime. Actually, no, I'll sort of show you in real time a little bit more about what I've been doing. So, I've already expanded a little bit over there. What I do is, so with every 4 roboports, like I've got there, there's 1 radar. If I go back out to the map view, let's get rid of that so we can see what's going on. I'll get rid of that as well. So these small blue squares here, these are the large power poles, big electric poles. These ones here are the roboports. So you can see that I've got lines going across for power. And the roboports at max distance, they take about 2 power poles. And then that one there, so on the right side of that power pole, I've got the roboport. On the left side of it, I've got a radar. And that turns out to be, it's a little bit over coverage, so more coverage than I need, but it works out, it tiles pretty well. So, if I copy 4 roboports, the power poles that they've got, and the power poles that connect them, and the power poles just to the right of them, so those 2 power poles there, I can, in fact, that's what I was doing earlier. Quite recently I've actually switched to also grabbing the next row of roboports. That way I can just overlap them. So I line them up, pop them down, the robots will build them. Let's bump that up to a faster game speed so I don't have to wait so long for things to happen. There you go, robots zoom in. Then I can just pop down a side like this, putting the roboports and the radars in. It does take a little bit of time because I can't place this one down here, for example, until that radar gets placed like that. And sometimes I'll have to place them twice because of just the way chunks work, and radars reveal a certain number of chunks rather than a set distance. Like that, I'll have to replace that one. And then when we get to the bottom, like that. Oh, last one. Come on. There it is. Then I can go back up to the top, grab out this blueprint here. I did play around with a blueprint that already has the saplings in there, but that doesn't work so well with radar coverage, so I find it's better to do it in 2 separate steps. Oh, by the way, I've extended the wall around this area because I know that that entire area is 2 million. So, assuming I don't have to do any more cutting through for like the this rail thing I've got going through there, or any more resource patches I need to go grab, assuming that, I know that I don't have to count that again. Okay, so yeah, we've got this blueprint here, which I believe has 100 saplings in it. Yep. I am only doing the bit that is covered by the logistics network. Now, I'm aware that I can go a bit further, but I'm not going to do that. I can then copy that. Yeah, so, oops, I don't actually want the wall in that. So yeah, I'm aware that I could build up here, for example, but you know, this is just a nice way to do it, and it means I don't accidentally have to plant trees just to tear them up again when it comes time to plant the next row of roboports. Okay, so now I've got an entire row that is 2 roboports wide. Pop that down, press Shift, which allows you to put down a blueprint on top of other things. This is useful because even though it might deconstruct some trees that are already there, which we need to turn into more trees anyway, it will not deconstruct actual buildings. Okay, so pop that down, click, hold, and drag. And we just drag that all the way down to the bottom. Try not to overshoot. And one there, and one there. Okay, come back out to the map view. And then, oh yeah, the last thing I did was over here, so all my robots are over there at the moment. So you can see, yeah, immediately I have dropped down from 1200 to 200 updates per second. So things are much slower. Now I've got this on so you can sort of see what kind of paths the robots are taking. So sometimes I will end up with large clusters around a roboport trying to recharge. To help try and mitigate that, I have lined the entire base with roboports. Apart from this stretch up here, which apparently I forgot. But anyway, yes, they will go. They will pick up the trees. They will take, or they will pick up the natural trees. They'll take them back to here, where they can start being crafted into more saplings, and then they will take the saplings out and plant them. And you can see they've already started planting saplings at the top, and they should start turning into trees. So yeah, I'm going to turn the robot visualization off. If I do that, you can see it jumps from 146 to 156, 157, about that. It goes up a little more if I turn that menu off. So yeah, you can't see what they're doing, but I get a little bit of extra speed out of that. So yeah, that is where we are at the moment. I'm going to go listen to more audiobook while I let the robots take care of that little chunk, and then I will do it again and again and again. So yeah, back to it. If you're after an audiobook recommendation, I recommend Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey, the first book in the Expanse series. Audible, please sponsor me. Phew. So, we are about, in-game time, about 500 hours later. Real-world time, about a week later. Took a bit longer than I thought. And audiobook time, about 2.5 books later. We're done. I have managed it. Turns out my computer can handle 20 million trees. In fact, we're actually a little bit over 20 million trees because of rounding errors, I guess, when I was adding things up here and there. But anyway, we've got it. So let's start off with some changes in the base. Again, so there are fewer changes this time. Primarily, the changes are a little bit more nuclear power. So yeah, I have tripled the nuclear power we had from last time. So we have 9,200 roboports and 2,200 radars, having an idle draw of over a gigawatt. So it's a bit of a weird situation. I've got, I think I had 20,000, a little over 20,000 construction robots. If I start a new construction order and they all go out, my power tanks. The satisfaction goes down to about here. But that's because all the robots leave at the same time, and then they all run out of power at the same time, and they all try to find a charging station at the same time, and I'm using that all at the same time. However, because of the power switch I set up to isolate the rest of the base when my power drops down, the robots, they basically just slow down until they end up at a point where everything is charging at a different time, and my base can just about handle that at the moment with the well, how many was it? With the 552 steam turbines I've got, powered by 6 columns of 4 nuclear reactors. In terms of game speed, well, we are at idle at the moment. If I try to bump the game speed up, we get as high as 200 updates per second to 10. So that's somewhere between 3 and 4 times game speed at idle. My base isn't doing anything at the moment. Yeah. So turns out trees take a lot of updates. In fairness, it's probably the number of radars I've got. You know, that's all right. When the robots go out, I cannot keep up 60 updates per second. Depending on exactly what the camera is doing. Like if I'm zoomed right in on the real view, I get a few more out of it. But somewhere between 30 and 60 updates per second when the robots are active. Anyway, let's put that back to what it was. Don't need that. And let's have a look at the map view. So, that's where I am. That is my starter base with extra nuclear power bolted on. That's roughly where I was when I left you last, I think. We've got the copper, coal. There's the uranium up there with that train line. And that's an iron ore deposit that I had to go out and get because this one down here basically ran out. Yeah, there's minimal left there now. I suppose I should cover it with trees. Anyway, I've also gotten rid of the walls. Although apparently I missed putting some trees back in their place. I did try to replace the walls with trees, but it looks like I missed one. So let's... Okay, so yeah, there's robots flying in to finish off that little bit. So yeah, even more than 20 million trees now. So let's keep zooming out, and keep zooming out, and keep zooming out, and keep zooming out. There we go. So yes, that is my take on the Team Trees challenge. I have planted 20 million trees. Now you should go and do the same. There is a link to the description. There is a link in the description to the Team Trees website. Please go and give what you can. It is a good cause. You know, we all breathe air. So for every dollar you can help out with, the Arbor Day Foundation will help us by planting a tree. And of course, you know, if we can get to that 20 million goal by 2020, that will be cool. Because it will be. I checked a little bit before recording this section of the video, and I think we're about at 16 million, so certainly very doable. You know, if I can plant 20 million trees in a week, then, you know, we can get another 4 million by the end of the year, I'm sure. So, yeah, pop along, have a look at that. You know, you can come and say hi to me in my Discord as well, or follow me on Twitter, all the usual kind of stuff. But I'm gonna leave it there. Yes, not much more to do. I'm going to save this map and then never touch it again, most likely. So there is just one more thing to do, and of course this comes from two things. Firstly, you know, my computer, it is handling this. Secondly, I'm a Factorio player, and These are trees. Whoops.